Hey, Take His Whistle podcast. Welcome. Stay tuned.
Fires to the end zone. Touchdown! Alabama wins!
Lets it fly.
Oh my goodness! Touchdown LSU! They win the game!
Back today, so I got time to be tripping and writing no love song. Yeah, writing no love song. We all experience love loss. Yeah.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Take His Whistle podcast. I am one of your hosts, Josh, and as always, I'm joined by my great best friend, Parker.
Josh. It seems you're a little frustrated. It seems like today. It seems like you got something on your mind. You everything okay?
Yeah, I'm good. It's just work week's kicking my ass. But other than that, yeah. And there's a certain sport that has to do with my university of choice that isn't very I guess good is the polite word to use. So, but
what about their swim team?
I actually don't know how good Louisville swim team is, but
I don't think anybody does.
No, I'm not talking about the swim team. But
yeah, we are back here with another episode. We were going to try to get that NFL episode this past Tuesday, but we had some major technical difficulties, which constricted our kind of mobility as far as getting something out to you guys. So what we do plan on doing today is kind of go over some key topics that have been happening over the past week or so in the NFL, just to kind of talk about just everything going on with the NFL, and then we'll obviously have our normal on schedule college episode as well. Just the big things going on with the college episode. So kind of a hodgepodge kind of mix of both NFL and college, but I mean, who doesn't enjoy both?
We're gonna 100%. But we're gonna try to keep the NFL section somewhat short, just a little brief, just because, like Parker said, me and him went over it already on Tuesday, and because that recording was lost, we don't feel like going over everything again. We don't want to say everything that we said again. So yeah, we're just going to go over it very quickly. So I guess to start it off then, Parker, as of right now, if you had to give me a team in the NFL right now, today, who is the best team in the NFL?
Damn, just going at me just like that. Wow. As far as the best team in the NFL goes, I think that I would still have to go with the 49ers. And my reasoning solely is because when they are fully healthy, when they have Debo, when they have McCaffrey, Purdy, their whole offense is healthy, there hasn't been a team to stop them yet. There has not been a team to even come close. They have dominated big-time opponents. Their best competition in the NFC, they have dominated so many times. And then whenever they went on their 3-game losing streak, it was because they had key injuries. Debo was in and out of injury. McCaffrey was in and out of injury. And so, yeah, whenever you're missing huge offensive pieces like those two, or even their quarterback and Purdy, who's an MVP favorite,
Ayuk
you
was
are
in
going to
and
struggle.
out of injury too.
Yeah, exactly. So, all in all, I think the 49ers are still the best team. They got the best defense out of the, I guess, so-called favorites, especially in the NFC, in my opinion. But overall, best team right now, I would still give the flowers to the 49ers. What about yourself?
I'm going to have to agree with you. I do think it's the 49ers just because as a team as a whole, I think they just are better than everyone else. People are probably going to get mad at me. I know Philly fans are probably going to get mad at me, but listen, the 49ers shit on you guys. I don't know what you guys want me to say. You guys didn't play good at all against them. And I know the Eagles are still good. I know the Eagles are still a very talented team. The Eagles are a Super Bowl team still. But if we're going off of this season alone, and as of right now, I know you guys have the better record than the Niners as well, but still, in the head, you got to put the head-to-head. You got to include that. And they have destroyed you guys, and they have destroyed the team that handed you guys your third loss. So that's my opinion. To go more in depth, the Niners destroyed the Cowboys and the Eagles. which is
Correct.
what most people would say is their hardest competition in the NFC. So, you know, they don't really have much closer competition than those two teams. So, I mean, but if I had to give a counter argument to the 49ers, me personally, I would probably have to say the Baltimore Ravens. Now, I don't think the Baltimore Ravens I don't think they compare as far as team overall, but I think their quarterback play is better. I think their defense is almost comparable. I mean, the Baltimore Ravens have a top-tier defense this year. Their defense is winning them games. It's very reminiscent of their early 2000s teams. Not quite as good. I don't think any defense can be as good as that defense, but very reminiscent of it. That defense is shutting down teams, and they're winning them games when it matters. This most recent week against the Rams, the Ravens showed up when it mattered most. And which that game was amazing. We talked all about it on Tuesday, so we don't have to go too far into it today. But I think the Ravens are probably up there with the Niners, and considering the Baltimore Ravens are in the AFC, I would probably just go ahead and say that the Ravens are the best AFC team and the Niners are the best NFC team. That if I had to give a hypothetical Super Bowl as to what I would watch today, but if I had to choose the two best teams to go ahead right now, it would be the Ravens and Niners, which we also mentioned on Tuesday, but it's not as big of a topic, but they actually play on Christmas in a head-to-head matchup. So that's going to be very fun to watch, hopefully.
I do know, just looking at the AFC and your teams in the competition for the Ravens as far as who is better than the Ravens in the AFC, I mean, you got teams like the Dolphins, the Chiefs, the Jaguars, and then the Browns. I mean, it's just there's such a talent difference in Baltimore, in my opinion, compared to the rest of the AFC. It conflicts me because I sit there and watch the Ravens year after year, and I know last year was a little bit different. They had a little bit of a disappointing season last year, but they are good, and they've been good for some time now. But every single time playoff time comes around, they somehow end up choking their game. They end up somehow blowing it, and they lose it. So I'm like, yeah, the Ravens are the best team in the AFC. But if I'm sitting here thinking, like, who do I think is going to have the best chance to make the Super Bowl this year, it's really hard for me to put the Ravens in there right now. Just because they have, just history tells us, like, that they haven't proven that they can make it to the Super Bowl, that they have what it takes to do it. And I do like this roster better than years past, especially offensively. They finally, I talked about it a few weeks ago, they finally got Gus Edwards involved in the run game and just other running backs. I know they have a shit ton of running backs over there in Baltimore, but they were able to just mix in Lamar's scrambling ability and their running back ability, which it makes all the difference at the end of the day.
And also his passing ability.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. So, like, you have, not only do you have to watch out for Jackson scrambling, but now you have all these great running backs too. So now it just leaves the passing lanes wide open. And so it's a really, it's one of the best offensive schemes in football, in my opinion. But it's just, it's hard for me to sit there and say that they are the Super Bowl, the favorite to come out of the AFC, I should say. But at the same time, I'm like, your top 6 teams, your top 7 teams, besides the Chiefs, no one has been there in 20 years. Like, none of maybe the Colts, I think Colts were, but none of these other teams besides the Chiefs have been to the Super Bowl, especially with their roster, their makeup, in some time. And me personally, I don't think the Chiefs have what it takes either. So the AFC is going to be exciting. Both of them are going to be exciting. Just two different storylines really going into the playoffs. Like, you have the juggernauts in the NFC, and then you have just kind of a bloodbath in the AFC. So
it's really going to be an interesting story as to, like, who in the AFC is going to step up to play one of those 3 teams in the NFC. because it's gonna be one of those three teams in the NFC. It's gonna be one of the three. I don't outside of those three. I think the talent drop off is quite huge. I guess you could say the Lions have a realistic shot in the playoffs if you really want to, but they've shown blemishes in their game, and their losses that they've had are comparable to the Eagles' losses. When the Lions lose, they lose, and I mean, you can just look at the Bears game this most recent week as proof of that. I still think they're too young. I still think I still think they're. I don't know if unproven is the right word, because they haven't really made the playoffs like ever in our lifetime. I think they've maybe made it once. But what Dan Campbell is doing with that team is very good, and in a couple years they could definitely be up there with the Eagles, Cowboys, and Niners, assuming those three teams don't fall off either. But
what's crazy to me is I'm sitting here just looking at the playoff picture, and I get it, I understand, but I feel like they need to change the playoff, like, how they do it, because the Buccaneers being up here at 6-7 is just outrageous in my opinion. Like, I get it, they're leading the NFC South, but
the thing is, though, if you look at the overall standings, there's so many teams this year that are 6-7, 7-6. Like, it seems like every other team is 6-7 or 7-6. So that race, like this year's playoff race, is going to be tight. Like, teams are going to be fighting for those last spots, and honestly, as two avid fantasy players, that's good for us, because that means no teams are going to be sitting their players. So
yes,
that's good for us. But the race is just so tight this year. It's, in my opinion, I like it a little more, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind it. It's just like I'm sitting here seeing a team like the Eagles that literally 2 weeks ago, maybe even last week, they were leading the NFC. They lose 1 or 2 games, and now they lose out on home field advantage. They're sitting at the 5th seed, right? They would have to play the Buccaneers. If the season ended today, they would have to play the Buccaneers in Tampa Bay. And now I think the Eagles would still win it, but I'm just like, come on, you're rewarding a team for being below 500. I completely understand. I get exactly what they're doing, and we see it in all kinds of sports. MLB is another one that does the same thing. But I don't know. It makes me feel some type of way, because in the AFC, it's not like that. It's not like that. Your best 4 teams are leading your divisions, and then you have a team like the Browns that are tied with the Ravens. Or no, they're not tied, but they're tied with the lowest. I guess they're tied with the lowest division leader as the Jacksonville Jaguars. So, like, the AFC all makes sense. Everything's going along there. But then it's like you got the Cowboys, the 49ers, the Lions, Buccaneers, just randomly. And it's just, I don't know. It's just weird to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Although, like, at the same time, that's actually interesting, because aren't the Eagles still the lead in their division still?
No, the Cowboys have it as of right now.
They're in the same. They're in the same
both
division.
In the NFC East. Yeah.
How does that make any sense?
What do you mean?
How is Dallas and Philly in the NFC East?
Yeah.
How does that make any sense at all? Okay. Well. Okay. Never mind then. Yeah. But I guess. Well, I guess I was gonna say. I guess I just don't know, like, how you would give the top teams in the conference all a bye, or at least home field advantage, when they could be like second or third in their division, or which in this case, they're second in their division.
If the Eagles were in the South, if they were in the same division as the Buccaneers wouldn't even be in the playoffs right now.
Yeah, no.
And by the way, who also is in that division is the Giants and the Commanders. So you have Washington, D.C., New York, and Philadelphia, and then randomly you have Dallas in that division.
Did
I
they
don't know
like did they like relocate to Dallas at some point or something?
No, they've been in Dallas for forever. I don't know. There might have been a realignment at some point before we were born, but yeah, it really geography wise, it doesn't make sense at all.
That's so weird for Dallas because like if they're in like their if they're in their division game stretch, like where they're playing all the teams in their division, they're like at such a disadvantage when they have to travel. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, definitely, 100%, 100%.
But anyways, so moving on from the best team in the NFL, just to kind of speed things up a little bit because we've got a lot of college stuff not a lot of college stuff, but very fun college stuff to talk about.
Yes.
Patrick Mahomes, what the hell happened there? I saw he apologized profusely the day after the game, which is fine. Like that, like good on him for apologizing because what he did was way over the top. But at the same time, like what the hell was that? I mean, that was crazy.
So we obviously we did talk about this on Tuesday, and since Tuesday, the past 2 days, we've kind of had a little bit more time to kind of see everything unfold and everything like that. But at the end of the day, my point still stands. I don't look at Patrick Mahomes differently as he's some punk NFL quarterback that is just too high on life to realize what he's got. Like, Mahomes is a very humble guy, in my opinion. He could be different behind closed doors, but to what I see, he's a very humble guy. And I just think that he was in the moment. He, the Bills and the Chiefs, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, they've had such a rich rivalry over the past how many ever years. And I know, like, these guys are competitors. Like, these guys are the toughest competitors there is in the world. They want to win, regardless. They absolutely just want to beat each other. They don't care exactly how it's done. And so to lose a game in that way, as in far as Travis Kelce makes a phenomenal play, a play that would be seen for years and years and years, get taken back by an offsides call. I get it. That sucks. That's how you lose the game. But it wasn't like it was a missed call or the wrong call. Like, he was clearly not offsides. He was clearly offsides. He was like, Kadarius Toney was on the other side of the field. He should not have been there. And then it's a weird situation. And I'm just taking it as Mahomes was in the moment. He just really wanted to win. He didn't win after a crazy play like that, and the emotions got the best of him, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't really know, like, everything when I saw him after the game, what he said to Josh Allen specifically. I don't know if you saw, like, on Twitter what he said to Josh Allen, but like when he went up to Josh Allen after the game, he was like,
yeah,
he told Josh Allen like the worst call I've ever seen in my life, and like in my opinion, like Josh Allen doesn't care. Like,
no, Josh Allen doesn't care at all. He just got to win.
Yeah, Josh Allen just got to win over what many people probably think is the best team in the NFL, and over a guy who people overlook Josh Allen for. Reasonably so, though. But, I mean, it was just a funny situation, in my opinion. It was just goofy. But, yeah, like I said, he did apologize the next day profusely on social media and in a presser. So, I mean, good on him for realizing what he did was a little over the top. But, one thing that confuses me, though, is, at the same time that we say, like, Kadarius Toney should have done his job better as far as checking with the ref and everything like that, I've been kind of keeping up with it as far as, like, the past couple days where it's been, like, the craze on Twitter. And more and more people are coming out with stuff saying that, like, he was lining up in the neutral zone all game and it was fine up until that point. Or he was checking with the refs all game, and they were saying he was fine all game until that one point. And it does bring me to an interesting thing where maybe Mahomes was a little justified doing what he did, because, a lot of people like to say, just let him play, especially that late in the game. I mean, there was almost a minute left in the game, and it was a crucial play. But at the same time, that play happened on a second down. They still had 2 more downs to try and get a first down, or at least get in a field goal range, and they failed to do that. So as much as an odd situation that it was to begin with, and whether you could blame Tony or the refs, they still should have done better with the 2 more downs they had to gain that first down. And which I will admit, I'm an avid listener of the Kelsey Brothers podcast, and that is one thing that Travis admitted. He was like, regardless of the situation, we still had 2 downs to make something happen, and we failed. So that's still on us, regardless. Which
and also, to like your point where like he was offsides previously and they didn't call it, but now they did call it. It's not something as like, this play happened, Travis Kelce made the play, the Chiefs take the touchdown, then they throw the flag after the touchdown was already scored. The flag was thrown as soon as the ball was snapped.
Yeah.
They didn't call it because of the play that happened. They called it because he was offsides. And I did see that video on Twitter where it looked like on that play he pointed over to the refs. That's neither, we don't necessarily know. The ref could have not been paying attention, or he just didn't see the point or whatever to make sure he was good, whatever it may be. And then Andy Reid also said, Andy Reid himself came out and said that Kadarius Toney did not check with the refs on that play. And again, so everything is a bunch of he said, she said type of things. So, I mean, I think we just move on from the whole situation. It's not something like Draymond Green, who keeps hitting people and gets suspended. He hits somebody again, and it's not like we can't sweep that under the rug. Like that's got to be an issue that's addressed. Mahomes acting like this is new behavior. This is something we have never seen from Mahomes. I'm not worried about it right now. Now, if it continues and it becomes a problem, then that's something different. But I think Mahomes is a much better guy than that, in my opinion.
All right. So, moving on, we could potentially have some drama up in New England this offseason. Reports came out a couple days ago saying that Bill Belichick might be getting fired after this year.
I thought it was. I don't think it might be. I thought it was like confirmed.
So, obviously, nothing's confirmed unless it's said by the team. Or, maybe Ian Rappaport. But even then, sometimes it's not completely true. So, and you said it yourself, Parker, you got to wait until, there's official papers or something signed. So,
correct.
It's not official, but at the same time, nobody's really came out and denied it. Bill Belichick himself kind of shot the rumors down in a presser, but that's kind of his job, because obviously he can't just come out and be like, yep, I'm fired. So but regardless of if it's true or not, I would say that it is extremely shocking to see that even a potential false rumor of him being like pretty much 100% fired after this season is even out there. Because he really seems like a guy who I thought would just have a lifetime contract for what he's done for that franchise.
I mean, and we talked about this last week, right? Like we literally, like before the news broke out that the Patriots could potentially be firing him, we literally had a whole conversation about this. And
yeah, it actually became our most popular TikTok clip. Take His Whistle Pod on TikTok.
Ironically, you should go follow. it has to be brought up, right? And I don't think that this is necessarily the case, but it's got to be brought up. Since Brady left, the team has underperformed tremendously, right? You just went from, all you did was, I know you lost guys like Gronk and Julian Edelman ended up retiring. So, those are crucial pieces. But the core of the New England Patriots, I shouldn't say the core, but there was a decent group of players from that New England Patriots team that stayed after Brady left, And it just, over really one season, it seemed like they just automatically went straight into a rebuild. And I think they made it to the playoffs, or they were right there at the playoffs, Mac Jones' first year. But then, since then, it's just, they're one of the saddest teams in the NFL right now. And it brings the question up, is how good of a coach really is Belichick? And I know what you said last week is he is good at what he does coach. We don't know if he's an offensive or defensive coach, but he is good at what he does coach. Apparently, that's not getting the job done in New England.
Yeah. Yeah, well, one of my things, though, is I told you over text the other day, he's a defensive-minded coach. He's a defensive coach. And before this year, they actually consistently, even when Brady left, they consistently had a top 5 defense in the league. Obviously, they're missing their best defensive player this year, and Matthew Judon. He got hurt earlier this year with the season-ending, I think it was maybe an elbow or just something with his arm. But by far their best defensive player, in my opinion, extremely underrated edge. He's a great edge player, but regardless of that, I mentioned it in the TikTok video. I mentioned it in that clip. I find it very hard, at least personally, and I'm no Patriots fan. I'm not watching their games every week, so I'm not seeing the same things that a Patriots fan is seeing. But what I will say is that I have watched them dominate for 100% of my lifetime.
Yeah.
My entire lifetime, they have been dominant. And I have watched Bill Belichick succeed 100% of my lifetime. And I will say this. We even saw him succeed with the rookie Mac Jones. Mac Jones made the Pro Bowl his rookie year. They didn't have a great year, but they had it was obviously a step back from Tom Brady, but they had a good year in Mac Jones' rookie year. And then the sophomore year came, which was last year. Which was last year. And it was just a massive step back for really just Mac Jones. It was really, honestly, truly just Mac Jones that stepped back. The defense was still a top 5 defense in the league all year, consistently. Ramondre Stevenson became better throughout the year. The O-line could have been better. The O-line hasn't been great for a while now.
Some time now.
The tight end play, obviously nobody's going to compare to Gronk, but Hunter Henry is decent when he wants to be. We've seen him have good games before. But Mac Jones just seemed to take a step back, and it seemed like it was holding them back last year. And their offensive coordinator as well. I'm forgetting who their OC was last year, but I think he got fired. I think. I could be wrong. But then this year comes along, and it seems like Mac Jones takes even a further step back, even from last year, which wasn't good either. So, anyways, back to my original point, though. It was kind of a long thing to get me back to this point. I find it hard for myself to say that it's Belichick's fault, whereas I find myself blaming the person that's getting put out there to run the team. And real quick, let me just pull it up real quick. Oops. Let's see here. All right. So, it has been, what's it been? Two weeks since Bailey Zapp became the starter now? He's been the starter for 2 weeks now, correct?
Something like that. 2 or 3, yeah, something around that range.
Okay. So, I'm sure okay, so he became the starter 2 weeks ago against the Chargers, which was a terrible game. They lost to the Chargers 6-0. But in that game, Bailey Zapp played fairly well. He went 13 for 25, 141 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, which that game was just boring as hell anyways. But this most recent week, Bailey Zapp goes out there and plays a hell of a game. 19 for 28, 240 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. And even Zeke, who I thought was washed, had a great game. And they beat the Steelers 21-18. So when I see the backup come in and start 1-1 and play good in one of those games, like extremely good, I find it very hard for myself to blame Belichick rather than the quarterback that's been playing all year and for the past 2 years. Because if you make the Pro Bowl as a rookie, you would think you'd get better, not get worse and then eventually get benched. And I don't think Zapp is their long-term decision. I would assume not, especially with this year's class. I would say they would probably make a move this year, whether it's in the offseason or the draft. But
it's got to be the draft, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would assume the draft as well. But I don't personally want to see Belichick fired because I think if he actually gets a quarterback in there that can make competent decisions and good decision making, then I think they will be good again. I don't know about Brady level good, or Brady level dominance, but I think they'll be good again because, like I said, that defense is consistently top of the line, even without having multiple big names like the Niners or the Ravens.
I've said it since last year. As much as it does pain me because you could say I'm a WKU hater, but Bailey Zapp is the more talented quarterback in New England. And again, I don't think he's the long-term answer either. But as of right now, and maybe they don't go after a quarterback in this draft class. Maybe they use that second overall pick to get them something else. Who knows? But I just think that if Zapp is the quarterback at least for next year, or they don't have a quarterback for next year, it needs to be Zapp. He is just, you could just see it on a regular basis, like literally just watching one play from Mac Jones and one play of Bailey Zapp. Bailey Zapp is much better. I don't know. I do agree with you. But at the end of the day, I mean, we don't have a say in it, obviously. If it is true and Belichick does get fired, do you think he goes out and tries to find another job, whether that is college, who knows, or do you think he hangs it up and he just sails off in the sunset as one of the greatest coaches ever?
I'd say he probably hangs it up. Personally, I would say he probably just hangs it up. He's, in my opinion, too old to take on a new job for a new team. He's same age, if not older, than like Nick Saban, who's secretly way older than he looks. But I saw a lot of people are kind of teasing, like, if he gets fired, then Saban's just going to hire him, which if that happens, then it's...
Wow.
I mean, that defense will go from full of 5 stars to 2 and 3 stars, but they'll still be elite.
Holy crap. Nick Saban is 72 years old.
Yeah, dude, he's old as shit. He's old as dirt.
Holy, I knew he was older than he looked. But to be 72 years old is insane.
Yeah, no, he's old as hell. He is old as hell.
And then Belichick is 71, so Saban is actually older than him.
Yeah, I was about to say they're the same age, if not like one of them's a little older. But
yeah, I mean,
at least one of them looks somewhat. But to be honest, neither of them looks 72 or 71.
No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all. It's that coach money, man. That millionaire money.
Yeah, seriously.
To do amazing things. I think Belichick just needs to, like you said, just hang it on a coat rack. You know, sail off in the sunset as one of the greatest coaches to ever walk this planet.
He's a Hall of Fame coach.
Oh,
he should make the Hall of Fame. Even if he gets fired, he should still make the Hall of Fame.
I mean,
I don't know if getting fired like gets rid of your Hall of Fame chances, but it shouldn't.
I don't think so.
It shouldn't.
I don't think so. I think as far as the Patriots, they realize after this season that it's an absolute just dumpster fire over there, that they need to blow it up, restart new, and kind of just bring in a new culture. They need to get out of the Brady era. It looked like, and I said it a few weeks ago, it looks like they're trying to do the same thing with Mac Jones that they did with Brady, kind of run a very similar offensive style, and I think that they just decided to start new. A whole new era starting in New England, and they could be bad for the next 10 years, you know? But, I mean, I think this is the start of it for New England, so I don't think it's any malicious bad blood between Belichick and New England. I think it's all pretty cordial, in my opinion.
Alrighty, so really quickly, just one last topic as far as NFL goes, and then we'll jump into college for the rest of the time. The Chargers, they suck. That's it.
Yeah,
they suck. They're currently losing 49-7 in the third quarter to the Raiders.
It's 49-7 now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was making the script, right? I was just kind of going through like different things that I kind of want to touch on, just a reminder. And I looked at the score, and I was looking to see who scored for. It was Joshua Palmer. Just kind of looking at the scores of today because I knew there was a game on. And yeah, it was 35-0, and it wasn't even halftime now. And now it's 49-7. And I don't want to spend too much time on it because like you summed it up in 2 words. They suck. They suck. That's literally it. My question to you, Josh, if I had to make one, is do you think that they need to blow the entire thing up? It's very kind of similar to what the Patriots are doing. Just, I know you have some great pieces, Keenan Allen, Justin Herbert, Austin Eckler. You have some great defensive pieces, and Joey Bosa. Who's your other guy? The edge rusher.
Khalil Mack.
Khalil Mack. Is it something where you just kind of got to ship all these guys out, just load up on draft capital, or do you think you take what you have and you add to it?
I think you fire your head coach. I don't think Brandon Staley's a good coach. He very clearly, at least in my opinion, isn't a good coach. He is wasting this amazing talent he has for the last, 3 years that he's been the head coach, and they made the playoffs once in that time period. And last year they threw it away in the second or even No, they made the wild card last year, didn't they? And then the Jaguars came back, 23-point comeback or something like that on them. First off, that was the start of it all, because I don't know how you allow that to happen. And then all this year, it's just been disappointment after disappointment. I mean, play calling's been terrible. Decision-making has been terrible. And they're not putting up points. And they have such a high-powered offense. You're telling me Justin Herbert, Austin Eckler, Keenan Allen, even Quentin Johnston, who's, he's been a little underwhelming, but he can still be great. And You're telling me that offense can't produce points? You're telling me that the most points they can produce in the last... let me look up their schedule real quick. Ugh. My nose is stuffy, man. Allergy season. You're telling me that the most points that they can produce in the last 3 weeks... in the last 3 weeks... You could even throw in 4. In the last 4 weeks, the most average points that they can put up on the board is 7? This Chargers offense, this Chargers team, you're telling me they can only put up 7 points on... That's just not acceptable. That's not acceptable. That's ridiculous. And I mean, they beat the Raiders earlier this year, 24-17. And obviously they're missing Justin Herbert, they're missing Keenan Allen, but just even before today, even with Keenan Allen, even with Herbert, they've just looked disappointing and upsetting all year. And it's just not, they're just not fun to watch, and they should be fun to watch.
And what's crazy is because go back 3-4 years ago, they were one of the funnest teams to watch. Like, whenever Justin Herbert first entered the league, I feel like I've said it all the time, I feel like Keenan Allen's been in the league forever for some reason, but Keenan Allen was already an established receiver. You had this young, quick, elusive running back in Austin Eckler. I mean, the Chargers 3-4 years ago were one of the most watched teams in the NFL. Everybody, it was like must-watch TV whenever the Chargers are on TV. I mean, I loved them. I love their colors, especially when they put on their powder blue uniforms. And it just seemed like the Chargers, they weren't there yet, but you were like, 4 years ago, you're like, in 4 years, we are going to be running the NFL.
I mean, after Herbert's rookie season, people were talking about how they were going to be the next dynasty. And
exactly, yeah. Yeah, I mean, you like if you're 4 years ago, if you said in 4 years we're going to be running the NFL, but this is exactly this is honestly what your reality is. I mean, yes, the coach does need to go, but I think it's more than that. Because, I mean, it just needs to be studied in a lab, how you have this much talent and you can't do anything with it. Like, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing, especially being in a state like California, a city like Los Angeles, where the market's unbelievably huge. You have so much money. I mean, it's an embarrassment in my opinion. It really is.
Yeah, it's dumb. But
I don't get it.
Yeah. All right. You want to transition over to college?
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Hang on. That's the transition noise.
Alrighty, let's get into it then. Alright, let's start with some transfer portal topics. That's kind of all we can really talk about nowadays is transfer portal and recruiting. But as far as it goes, let's start off with your team, Parker. The Kentucky Wildcats, who currently rank 3rd in the college football transfer portal rankings as far as 247 Sports goes. And as far as I know, 247 takes into account the players coming in and players going out. So as of right now, according to 247, Kentucky has 2 players going out and they've brought in 5. So that's a good ratio in my opinion. And then when you consider the 5 that are coming in, 4 out of those 5 look like immediate impact players. What have you noticed and what are your opinions on what you guys are doing so far?
Well, first thing, week 1 starts in 261 days. The countdown is officially on. So as far as the college football episodes go, from the next 261 days, it seems like it's going to be mainly the same thing, just different players' names. But the University of Kentucky, I am so excited. I'm so excited for this year. I've told you, Josh, so many times how excited I am just to see what this offense looks like. Like the defense, there is some questions with the defense. We have not been as aggressive on the defensive side as far as the transfer portal goes. But at the same time, we didn't lose. We lost a couple ones, like Keaton Wade. He was a huge loss as far as the defense side. But we didn't lose too many defensive players in the first place. So, like, and there was at times, our defense shined. Our defense was really good. We weren't on the level as like someone like Georgia, obviously, but we showed some great defense against Louisville. There was times where Louisville couldn't get anything going, and when we was just, and Louisville up until that point was a very solid offense. So I mean, I'm not too worried, but obviously there is some questions to be said, definitely. But on the offensive side, it's all going to be a whole new offense for the most part, led by Brock Vandagriff, the former 5-star from Georgia. He is going to be able to throw to a very experienced and fast wide receiver room. We got Raymond Cottrell from A&M. We got that guy that just committed, I think, was it yesterday that he committed? The guy from North Texas, Jamori Macklin?
Jamori Macklin, yeah. He committed he committed today.
Today. Okay, it was today. So I mean, and from what I've seen, that's a guy that I be honest, I didn't watch North Texas. Josh, I don't think you probably watched North Texas either. But as somebody that they say is one of the best wide receivers in the portal, and then they would show his stats, and his stats were amazing.
Listen, 57 receptions, 1,004 yards, and 11 touchdowns.
Yeah. Now, I mean, you gotta take that with a grain of salt, because I mean, look who North Texas was playing on a regular basis compared to what they are going to be playing. But that is still impressive nonetheless. So we got those two receivers. Obviously, we have key pieces like Dane Key, Barian Brown, and then what I am probably, in my opinion, the biggest wild card is Ohio State running back. They nickname him Chip. How do you pronounce his last name?
Trayanum. I think that's just his name. I think his name is Chip. Yeah, I think his name is just Chip Trayanum.
So he is the biggest wild card because, Josh, you said that he was more of a goal line threat. He was mainly used at the goal line for Ohio State. And
he had 85 carries for 373 yards and 3 touchdowns.
And, obviously his highlight was that game-winning touchdown against Notre Dame. Obviously, Notre Dame only had 10 guys on the field on that play, but that's neither here or there anymore. He is rocking Kentucky blue. But I think he is the biggest wild card on this new relook offense that we have, just because we have seen it in the past. Chris Rodriguez is a great example. We used him mainly as a third down, goal line back, just a power back, and we turned him into an absolute stud. Right, we just absolutely, he was one of the best running backs in the SEC, and that's how he started. So it makes me optimistic that we could potentially do it again, but at the same time, he does have, I feel like, a lot of raw potential that hasn't been tapped yet, and it's going to need to be by this upcoming year.
Oh, here we go. His real name is DeMonte.
So Chip is a nickname?
Yeah.
Okay. But all in all, I am thrilled with this offense, what Liam Cohen, Mark Stoops has been able to do over 1 year. And once again, it's not the first time. This has been a kind of a repeating thing over the past couple years. Kentucky, I'm not going to say they've dominated by any means, but they have been up there every year as one of the best transfer classes in the nation. It's been a 3-year thing now, I think. And this one might be our most impressive out of them all. It makes me excited as a Kentucky fan. I'm sure all Kentucky fans are excited, except, I'll be the first to say it. You're always going to have the negative doubters. You got to have, you look on UK Twitter or their Instagram or any social media page. People still aren't convinced, And I think it's just because I guess you could say we had 2 back-to-back disappointing seasons compared to where we were 3 years ago with Will Levis's first year. Definitely some steps back-to-back years. But me personally, as a Kentucky fan, I am excited. I am extremely excited for this year. I think that we'll get into what the schedule and our record potentially could be later on in this episode. But all in all, I don't have many complaints. If I did have a complaint, I think we go a little bit harder on that D-line. Obviously, it's going to be led by Deion Walker, but there is some holes there that are going to need to be filled. Yeah, that's about all I got as of right now. I just 261 days. 200. I think this year's going to be special, in my opinion. What about you?
All right.
As far as Kentucky side.
Oh no, I think you guys. I think what I would probably credit Liam Cohen more than Stoops, personally.
Mm-hmm.
So when I say this, I'm not trying to really like diss Stoops in any way.
Hey, watch it. People all of a sudden are the biggest Mark Stoops riders in the world after that. Ever since that Louisville win, they went from hating Stoops to loving Stoops just like that. So watch what you say here.
I don't give a shit. What Liam Cohen is doing in the transfer portal, the only reason I say I credit Liam Cohen is because it's been all offensive guys. Like there hasn't been any defensive, and that's no diss to Kentucky either. Like it's fine that it's only been offensive guys. Like you're bulking up your offense. That's fine. It's great. It's awesome. But because it's only been offensive guys, that's why I credit Liam Cohen more, because I feel like he's going out looking for talent and then getting them as the offensive coordinator of the Kentucky Wildcats. That's just my personal opinion. But what he's done in this transfer portal class is nothing short of a great job. The talent he's bringing in has a lot of promise, a lot of talent that seems like it could be brought out. He's bringing in proven conference talent, and I don't mean I don't mean that they've played necessarily. I just mean that they know what it's like to be in the SEC already. They know what the SEC is like, so they know what that SEC feeling. So I think it's going great so far for you guys, and I'm honestly excited to see how it goes the rest of the way, because I think this is only the beginning, to be honest. Good?
Sorry. I was texting somebody.
Oh, okay.
I don't want to do it on camera.
Yeah, no, you're good.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. Louisville though, now at the beginning, I don't know if I misunderstood you or not. Is Louisville above Kentucky now?
No, so originally Louisville's kind of gotten jumped by quite a few teams at this point thus far, but at least, and again, I just want to reiterate, I'm going off of 247 specifically, and 247 again takes into account transfers going out and transfers coming in. The page that I am looking at, it doesn't actually have the full list of transfers going out. Because like you said, Keaton Wade is transferring out of Kentucky, but he wasn't on that 247 list that I was just on, so I'm not really sure how they're doing it. But yeah, again, so it takes into account in and out. But anyways, the rankings go as follows. This is the top 10: Colorado, Notre Dame, which Notre Dame jumped Kentucky. Kentucky was number 2, just as early as this morning. Kentucky, so they only dropped 1 spot. South Carolina, NC State, Texas Tech, Ole Miss, Arizona State, Louisville, so Louisville dropped all the way to 9 from 3. Louisville was at the 3 spot. They dropped all the way to 9. And then Oklahoma. So those are your top 10 transfer portal classes as of this recording, according to 247.
Yeah, so is that because Louisville hasn't technically, they've signed people but not huge, humongous 4 5-star names, or is it because you guys have lost people?
We haven't really lost
Or
anybody.
is it just because other teams just kind of went crazy?
Yeah, so we haven't really lost anybody. We've only had quite a few transfer guys going out. And we don't really have many people leaving per se either, as far as like graduation goes and stuff like that. And I mean, even today, we just found out that Ashton Gelati is coming back for his senior year, which is huge for the Louisville Cardinals. Their best defensive player this year, coming back next year for his senior year. I'm sure he'll be great. I hope he's great, because he was phenomenal this year. And but yeah, I think what Louisville's doing. I think Louisville's being very, very intricate and specific with who they're getting. Like they're not really going out and just getting every single big name that enters the portal. They're not pushing for everybody. They're going after very specific players. Like we saw us pick up 2 tight ends in the same day, or it might have been back-to-back days. We got a commitment from Mark Redmond and Tanner he's got a funky last name. I do not know how to say his last name, but
I don't know how to say these names right now. It's going to take a while.
But we got a commitment from Mark Redmond and Tanner Koziol. And as far as I know, they're 2 very good tight ends as far as the portal goes. I know Mark Redmond is highly touted, or highly sought after at least. He was on the, I think it's the Mackey Award for best tight end in the nation. He was on the preseason list for that award for the past 2 years. So I do know that for a fact. So that's cool, because our tight end room has, I mean, even you saw it at games, Parker. The tight end wasn't really utilized this year, like at all. And that's
it got better towards the end of the year.
It did get better towards the end of the year, but I think that was Brom trying his best to get the tight end involved, because Jeff Brom really likes to use the tight end, whether it's in blocking schemes or receiving schemes. The tight end is a very important part of the offense. I mean, if you can find somebody that can block and pat and receive, that's a great combo. And from what I've heard, Mark Redmond is that guy. He can block and receive. And then we go up to the Ivy Leagues, and we pull 2 Ivy League guys who are both Ivy League All-Americans, or I don't actually know what they call it. It might just be called All Ivy League, but we go and get 2 of the best Ivy League players in the nation, and Thor Griffith and Jonathan Mendoza. And Mendoza,
he's like 6'8", isn't he?
He is 6'9", 310.
Crazy. That dude's massive.
Yeah.
Bro. Like, that is massive.
He's huge. But we're talking huge. Thor Griffith is 6'2", and from what I've heard, could be as much as 350, which is wild. And I mean, he has, and from the highlights I've seen, now obviously, we're talking Ivy League to Power 5.
That was my argument with that North Texas receiver. Like, you got to take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah, and so I am very excited to see those guys and how they perform, but at the same time, they got to win that job if they even want to show us what they can do. You know what I mean? And from what I've heard, it's possible for both of them. But 2 very exciting prospects for sure. And then it seems, if he wins the job, at least, it seems like we have our quarterback of the year, Tyler Shuck. We've talked about him already in the most recent college episode, but also another good commitment, at least in my opinion. My main thought process, or my main worry, is his injury history. He does have a very bad freak injury history. He's had 3 season-ending injuries in a row, which is very rough, very rough. And however, whenever he's been healthy, He's undefeated. At Texas Tech, whenever he was healthy and playing, he was undefeated. He didn't lose a game as a starter. At Oregon, as a true freshman, I think he led them to. I think it might have been the Orange Bowl. I think he led them to an Orange Bowl win as a true freshman. I'd have to fact check myself. If you want to fact check me, actually, while I'm talking, that would be cool. But I know as a true freshman, he led Oregon to some bowl, and I believe they won. But I like what I see from him. He's got a good arm. He's got good scrambling talent. He's big. He's 6'5", 230. And it doesn't.
Was it 21? It had to be.
It might have been 20.
They didn't make a bowl game in 20. So it had to be
21. It had to be. Okay,
right?
Then it must have been 21 then.
It was the Liberty Bowl.
The Liberty Bowl? Okay. So he led them.
But they killed them. They killed Mississippi State.
Yeah, okay. So he led them to the Liberty Bowl in 21 and killed Mississippi State. So he has a very good track record as far as winning goes.
Last year, they went to the Texas Bowl and honestly killed Ole Miss. So that's
there we go.
Two SEC teams.
Yeah, there we go.
They pretty much murdered.
Yeah, so he has a very good track record as far as winning goes, but obviously that injury history is a little concerning for me. I am excited to see who the backup becomes, whether it's Brady Allen or Pierce Clarkson.
It's gotta be Clarkson.
I would say it's Pierce. I do think Pierce is probably better. At the same time, though, I really don't know. I mean, either one of them could win it. But if Tyler Shuck does go down with God forbid, another freak season-ending injury, I mean, I would really hope that our quarterback play can sustain us. Obviously, we'd be looking at the hands of a I guess it'd probably be a redshirt freshman. I would assume both of them redshirted. They could potentially be true sophomores. I really don't know. They're not really public about that type of stuff. But, yeah, I'm excited. I don't think that's it, though, Parker, as far as transfers go. I do have some updates. I've got some updates for you as recent as today.
Kentucky and Louisville, or just Louisville?
Just Louisville. I had to, yeah. To be honest, you know me. I am a Twitter head, Parker, and I have been keeping my eyes on Kentucky as well. So don't you worry. If I see any Kentucky news, I'll let you know. But you know I'm sending you links all day, every day. So,
right.
But as far as Louisville goes, let me try to filter this so I can actually, get whatever. But, okay, so, one, Ashton Gelati's coming back. Great. Amazing. But this weekend, we actually have a top defensive end in the portal visiting, and we have, I believe, 2 or 3 top wide receiver talents in the portal visiting this weekend. One of them being Alabama wide receiver Ja'Cory Brooks, who was a former 5-star in his respective high school class. I believe he was listed as the second best wide receiver in that recruiting class. But he's on a visit this weekend until I think he's in Louisville right now as we speak on his visit. We've got a Duke defensive end who, let's see, he actually has a very funny first name, and it kind of worries me to say it, so I'm just going to call him Fub because that's his nickname. But he is a defensive tackle at Duke currently, but he is in the transfer portal. He's on a visit this weekend. He's a top defensive line talent in the portal. And then we have Indiana. I'm everywhere right now just because I'm trying to figure out names. I apologize.
No, you're good. You're good.
And then we also have, I believe, Where is he at here? Oh, that's new. This is unrelated, but top tight end. I believe he is the top tight end. Okay, no, he's the second tight end in the transfer portal. Justin Jolly. I know he was a target for Louisville. He committed to NC State. NC State has a lot of top commitments, by the way, portal wise. I've noticed.
Yeah, they were active. Them and Nebraska. Those are two teams to watch.
Yeah,
for the next couple.
Yeah,
of years.
Nebraska.
Both of those teams are.
Nebraska's quite active as well. I've noticed that too.
Nebraska's they're going to be good. Nebraska will be good here in about 3-4 years. They are going to be really good. This is just a start, in my opinion. That's a team to definitely be on watch as Nebraska. I feel like every big name, somehow Nebraska has some sort of say in it. Whatever it is, even if it's the tiniest bit, Nebraska is somewhat involved.
Yeah, they're cooking some. And honestly, I'm here for it because, Nebraska was like a powerhouse before we were born. I don't know if you know that, but they were in the national championship damn near every year. And, I mean, if I could see a dominant Nebraska, that would be honestly kind of cool because I feel like every time I look at historical college football, that's just all I see. Colin Lacey, that's who I is. He's a North Alabama transfer. He's a South Alabama transfer, and he is he's up there as far as wide receivers go. But he's also on a visit this weekend into Louisville. But if we can lock those three down, that would be huge for us. Seeing as they all seem to be very good talent-wise, and if we can bulk up that defense as well with Fubb, that would be incredible. Because from what I've heard, he's an incredible defensive line talent, and but yeah, it's gonna be. Hopefully, it's gonna be another fun week as far as transfer portal goes. It seems like every week, every day, there's more news coming out, and as far as our two teams go, I mean, they've both been very active, so. It's been fun keeping up with it.
Did you say something about Carter Smith?
I did not.
Okay, so I was just kind of just browsing while you were talking. It's a 6'6", 270-pound offensive tackle. He plays for Indiana this year, and it looks like 2 of his 6 teams of interest is Kentucky and Louisville. It seems like Kentucky is trying really hard to go after him, but Louisville is also there. Apparently they have contacted him. He is coming also along with that is Tennessee, Auburn, Ole Miss, and Michigan State. So that's just another. He was considered a 3-star prospect in the class of 22. So that's somebody else to potentially keep an eye on. Is 6'6" is a big boy, obviously. And then also for Kentucky, which I'll be honest, our wide receiver room is pretty packed, but it looks like we have another wide receiver on the list from Purdue. His name is Abdur Rahman Yassin. I probably butchered that, but Kentucky is on his list along with a bunch of other schools. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So Kentucky is one of 20 schools on his list.
Let's go.
I don't know what that means, but it looks like Kentucky has been in contact with them as well. So those are the only 2 that I necessarily see. I don't know where we're at with either of them. This is the first time, to be honest, I've heard either one of their names. But yeah, like you said, it looks like Kentucky and Louisville both are. It's exciting, just at the end of the day, it's exciting. And I have said it. I'll take the hate for it, but I'm sure my not just my Kentucky fans, but also my Louisville fans will agree with me on this one. College sports, football, basketball, baseball, volleyball, it all runs through Kentucky. Kentucky is the cream of the crop when it comes to college sports. And I think as more and more money comes in, NIL deals are more and more a factor. I think Kentucky and Louisville are both premier landing spots because we can offer money. We have a history of just being great. Obviously, Kentucky football as not, but obviously we've had a string of very good seasons. You see the rebuilding, and then obviously our basketball program is one of, if not the best program in the world. So I just Kentucky and Louisville. There's a whole situation going on with Louisville basketball that's something else. But college sports runs through Kentucky, the state of Kentucky. And I will stand on that. As much hate as I will get, I will completely stand on the state of Kentucky runs college sports.
I mean, you
I'm
just
saying it.
you just see it though. Like it's just evident. I mean, like with the last 2 years, as far as both transfer portals go and both recruiting classes are getting better and better each year. The transfer portal classes have been at the top both years. Thus far, it's not over yet in 2024, and it's gonna get even better, it seems like, for both teams. And even with both programs becoming better football wise, basketball is whatever, but football,
Whatever to a Louisville fan.
yeah, it's yeah. But both football programs are seeming like they're taking a step up now. You can say what you want about Kentucky's record this year. It really doesn't matter because them as a program, they're getting better. And again, you're seeing that with the people they're bringing in every year. You're seeing that with the way they're performing when they do win. And both programs are taking a step into what seems like the next level.
My one thing, just to prove Kentucky's improvement, and I know that Florida has rapidly declined over the past few years, but just the Florida versus Kentucky series. Florida had beat us like 30 years in a row. Literally, 30 years in a row. That's a team that we play every year. They beat us 30 straight years, and then now, 4 or 5 straight years, we have dominated them. And I know Florida has they've sucked, borderline sucked, and it looks like the recent news that's coming out is they are continuously going to be worse. Unfortunately, not really unfortunately, but even back in that 30-year stretch that Florida was beating us, they had some really bad teams. They had some really, really bad teams, and they still ended up beating us. And so if you want to see any sign of progression, I know you could say the Louisville Kentucky series that Kentucky has owned Louisville over the past couple years, but that's not even, I don't even want to focus on that because that's not really that relevant. That's only relevant to the state. But college football as a whole, just look at the Florida Kentucky series. We have owned them, and I think it only shows just signs of progression, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly, and I just want to see something real quick. What
you looking up?
Well, I'm trying to add to your point here as far as like improvement goes, and I was gonna talk about Kentucky versus Tennessee, but I actually don't want to talk about that rivalry because it's not that great. I'm sorry.
No.
Yeah, we'll move on from that. But okay, so moving on from that, do you want to get into some predictions for the 2024? Or we'll call it, or we'll pull an ESPN
way too
here.
early. Way too early.
A way too early 2024 schedule predictions.
I thought about doing this because I want to do this now, and then I'll also want to do this like a week or two before the season actually starts. And maybe we could even potentially do it mid-season because I want to see what our opinions are as far as you see the team kind of, we see the transfer portal, who we're getting in now, maybe, 2 months, 3 months down the line, Is there changes? Is there injuries? Is there somebody not living up to what we thought they would? Something like that. So we might do this 3 times, but I definitely want to do it now as the transfer portal's hot. We both have lost players. We both have gained players. And just see what our predictions are, because Kentucky, their whole schedule is already locked besides the times. We know when and who we're playing. Louisville, we know who we're playing, just not necessarily, we don't know the dates yet or like where each individual game is. But I just want to go through each individual game, both Kentucky and Louisville. I think Josh, you do Louisville and I'll do Kentucky, just for the sake of Kentucky versus Louisville. Do you want to start out with Louisville?
Sure. All right, so I will say, if you want to talk about last year's schedule being easy, I got to be honest, I think this schedule's just as easy, if not maybe even a little easier, maybe a little harder.
Really? I would say it's definitely harder.
I would say it's a little harder just because you add Clemson in there, but everyone else on the list we played last year. You add in SMU and Stanford, 2 of the new ACC additions, but I mentioned yesterday SMU being a potential threat just because they're coming off of an American Conference title, but I'm seeing that game's going to be a home game, so obviously I don't see that being too much of a threat anymore now that I know it's a home game. But there's some very important games in here that are home games. We've got Miami at home. We've got Georgia Tech at home, who always seems to play us close. We've got Pitt at home, who always seems to play us close. But obviously we have a lot.
Played you really close last year.
Yeah, really close.
Sorry, I had to.
But we have a lot of away games. We have a lot more away games this year, so I think that's going to be a really true. Now, and I know the schedule might not be that much harder, I'm trying to think of. The schedule might not be that much harder, but I think the sole fact that we have more away games this year will be a better test for us as a team to show if we're really, like that. Because last year we really kind of just had home field advantage practically every week, it felt like, because we were playing at home almost every week.
And then even your road games, 2 of your road games were neutral sites.
Yeah, exactly. And this upcoming year, we don't have any neutral site games. So it's either a true away game or it's a true home game. And we only have 4 home games this upcoming year. As far as conference play goes, we play our first 2 games at home, but that's against Jacksonville State and Austin Peay, which, no offense to those programs, but we should beat them. If we lose to those 2, then I don't know. But it's 2 teams that we should beat. But yeah, I like that we're playing Clemson again, because I know it's only been a year gap, but it feels like we haven't played them in forever. But I always love the Louisville Clemson games because they always seem to be close in like at least the first half, and then the second half kind of happens. But I've always loved playing Clemson. Obviously, Miami is always a good game. Just the fact that it's a new rivalry that we just made this most recent year, and we're starting off the rivalry strong, 1-0. So that's going to be a good game as well. A game that interests me, and this can be one of the last things I'll talk about, okay, I lied. It's not going to be the last thing I talk about. There's a couple things that interest me. We have to travel to Notre Dame, which I'm sure will be a great game, especially after this most recent year where we just dominated them at home. I'm very interested to see how that game goes at Notre Dame. And, to be quite honest with you, Parker, I think we could see a decent amount of red in South Bend this year. I think Louisville Cardinals could travel well for that game. Personally speaking, I think you and me are planning on going. I think we're gonna try to plan a trip for that one. Maybe I don't know how far away South Bend is, but a potential weekend trip, maybe.
It's pretty close to like Chicago, so like I know you remember.
Okay, yeah. So then maybe we can do like a weekend trip for it, but that should be a fun game. Obviously we gotta pull up to Lexington for the Kentucky-Louisville game. It's at Kroger Field this year, so that should be fun. And they sell alcohol there now, and me and Parker will be 21 by that point, so that should be fun. We can have a drunk argument as co-hosts.
Oh God!
and then we've got at Clemson, which I'm sure will be hard. Playing at Death Valley is no easy task, even this year when they were down. And then, to be quite honest with you, this game is the most interesting to me. And I know they weren't good this year. They were honestly, quite frankly, terrible this year. But at Stanford, so we have to go. We have to go. Yes. We have to go all the way to California to play a new to play a new Atlantic Coast Conference team edition.
All coast.
And the Stanford Cardinals. So we got a little Cardinal rivalry going on, it appears. But yeah, we've got to go from at least as close as East Coast as we can get in Louisville, Kentucky, all the way to great old California to play Stanford. And that game's interesting to me mainly just because of the travel time. And once you start getting into that area of the country, you're starting to talk about different air elevation. You're starting to talk about mountain ranges affecting the air and everything like that. So I'm interested to see if maybe we go there like practically the Monday after the game before that week. And then we just stay the whole week there just to train and get ready for it. I'm interested to see how Jeff Brom approaches that game, but that should be a fun game to watch. But other than that, I'm excited for the SMU Cardinal color matchup because SMU's uniforms are beautiful. I love their uniforms. But okay, yeah, that's enough. That's enough from me as far as Louisville goes. I feel like I've gone on long enough. My prediction is, I think the ceiling is either undefeated or one loss. I think that's the ceiling. I think the one true hard determined loss, and I know some people might think I'm going to say Clemson here, but I'm actually going to say Notre Dame. And I say Notre Dame because, one, South Bend is just always packed. But two, I mentioned it earlier, they have the second best transfer portal class coming in so far. And they've got lot of...
They don't have Sam Hartman.
Yeah, no Sam Hartman, and they actually have Riley Leonard. Duke's quarterback is now their quarterback. So we shut him down last year. We shut him down this year, but he was injured. So that is a very interesting game to me because I feel like with all the additions they're getting in, a lot of top additions they're getting in, Notre Dame could be very dangerous. But yet again, at the same time, it seems like they're always dangerous every year, and they've been more so disappointing for the most part of most years. And real quick, I'm not gonna sit here and say like Kentucky's not gonna be a hard game or Clemson's not gonna be a hard game or Miami's gonna be a hard game. I'm just letting you guys know what game, in my opinion, seems like the biggest outlier game that we could drop in my opinion. Which It seems like actually the Notre Dame game's pretty early on in the season. It is set for Saturday, September 28th. So
Yes.
that's like
So-
what, week 4 or 5, one of those 2 weeks.
All in all, I know you say you're 4, but what is your prediction? Like, what do you genuinely think as of right now is going to be your all's record at the end of the year?
I'm gonna go with. As of right now, with 261 days left to go in the offseason, Parker, I am going to go with a repeat performance of this year. I'm gonna go with 10.
losses.
I'm gonna go with 10-2.
And just asking, what do you think your 2 losses are?
Notre Dame, Clemson.
Notre Dame and Clemson. You think you get the revenge in Kentucky at Kentucky?
I mean, I just feel like I have to say that. I can't sit here and say that we're gonna lose. So yes, I do think we're gonna get revenge on Kentucky at Kroger Field. I mean, that would be cool to see. Obviously, I'm not too confident in it. If I'm being completely honest, I'm not confident in it. 5 years in a row is brutal. But yeah, if I had to say, as of right now, with 261 days left to go in the offseason, 10-2 is my prediction. Obviously, I could change it, depending on how the rest of the offseason goes. But yeah, that's my prediction.
And then my last question, and then we'll move over to Kentucky's side, is how the hell did you all escape Florida State 2 years in a row?
As far as we're not playing them again this year?
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I don't know. I can't answer that question. I don't understand either. I think it just has to do with having no divisions anymore. We don't we don't have the Atlantic and the Coastal conferences anymore. So now we're not forced to play them. So I think the way they're scheduling it is just.
I just think honestly,
maybe they're just drawing names out of a hat or something, but
the marketing would be crazy. I mean, the rematch of the ACC championship, I feel like that would draw in so much money. Who wouldn't want to see that?
Yeah, I guess maybe. I guess we just gotta wait and see if we can get it in the actual chip then.
Yeah. Well, moving over to Kentucky's side, I honestly will say we have the exact opposite of Louisville as far as easiness goes. We have a fucking gauntlet. We have a absolute tough schedule. Now, breaking down the schedule itself, you see, we only have 4 road games, but our 4 road games are tough. That means at Ole Miss, at Florida, at Tennessee, and at Texas. 2 of the 4 toughest places to play at, and just college football altogether. Those are 4 of them that you could put up there. But we also do have some easy games. We have, I would say honestly, we have more easy, I would say, I when I say easy games, I mean, like you said, teams that we should beat regardless. Like you said, for Louisville was Austin Peay and Jacksonville State. I feel like Kentucky has 4 of those, where Louisville really only has 2 of them. So those 4 games we should win. Those are all home games, being Southern Miss, Ohio, Vandy, and Murray State, in my opinion. But all in all, I feel like we have a very tough schedule. Obviously, the addition of Texas and Oklahoma, every single SEC team has to play either Texas or Oklahoma. Kentucky got the latter. We have to play the tougher of the 2, being Texas at Texas. So, I was just going to go week by week, not really breaking each matchup down just because I'm not too familiar with everybody's roster yet and don't know what everybody's going to look like. I'm just going to go week by week, seeing if it's a win or a loss. Obviously, we start the week against Southern Miss at home. That's a win. Then we got South Carolina, again at home. this is a game where this early in the season, I don't see a way where Kentucky loses it this early in the season. I think we're gonna be on cloud 9 like we always are at the beginning of the year. I think that's a win to be 2-0. Then we move into Georgia at home, another home game. Our first four at home. I'll be honest, it's a loss. It's a loss. We're not going to start out 5-0 again, which might be a good thing. Which honestly might be a good thing. You know, I feel like that's the new meta for Kentucky is that people break down Kentucky is they'll start 5-0 but they'll finish 6-6. So we won't start 5-0 this year in my opinion. We're going to be sitting at 2-1 after the Georgia game. Go on to beat Ohio to be 3-1. Then we have our first road game being at Ole Miss. And I'll say it. I think we win this game. I really do. Not last year, but the year before that, we played Ole Miss at Ole Miss. So back-to-back times we play Ole Miss is going to be at their place. And -2 Will Levis's fumbles in the fourth quarter, we should have won that game 100%. And I know that's something that it's been in the back of my mind. Like, I haven't forgot about it, and I know we got a lot of new players in, but I think Kentucky as a whole hasn't forgot about that loss, and I think we win that. I think we're sitting at 4-1, make it 5-1 after the Vanderbilt game. Then we got Florida at Florida. Tough game, obviously, being in the swamp. But, I mean, Josh, me and you even talked about it, how just, like, in shambles that team is. And you want to talk about a hard schedule, Florida might have the hardest out of all of them. Florida's got such a hard schedule. But I do think we continue our streak against Florida, beating Florida.
Yeah, just real quick, they realistically, like, I don't know what their schedule is and, like, who they play leading up to you guys, but, like, they could come into that game with, like, 1 or 2 wins.
If that. I mean, I think me and you briefly talked about it, and I was like, there's, like, a real possibility of Florida having a 3-win season.
Yeah.
Like, legitimately, like, that's hard. That's how hard their schedule is. And I think that we are just a better team altogether. So, I think after the Florida game, we're sitting at 6-1. We beat Auburn at home. The game out of all games that I am most looking forward to is this one being at Tennessee. And a game that, again, I think me and Josh are going to potentially try to go to. It's a little bit later in the year, so it's not going to intervene with the Notre Dame game. This is if there is a game I am most amped up for, it is this one. I am so tired of listening to these orange and white Tennessee fans sit there and say, oh, well, you guys got a cool class. You guys are still going to lose to us, though. I'm so tired. I hate Tennessee. I can't stand them. That is the only game. I don't care if we lose to Georgia. I don't care if we lose to Florida, Louisville. I want to win those games, but the one game that I want to win more than any of them all is the Tennessee game. I am so fiending for a win against Tennessee. It's not even funny. So I am just off that, just out of spite, I'm going to say we win that game. I think that we do win that. So we're sitting at, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? 7, 8. 8-1. We are sitting at 8-1. We beat Murray State to be 9-1. Lose.
They also, real quick though, as far as Tennessee goes, like, they also, like, I know they beat you guys this year, but they also didn't look very impressive at all this year. Like, to be quite honest. Like, in the grand scheme of their season, they didn't really look too impressive. And I also haven't... Now, this doesn't really mean too much as far as, like, team success and stuff. It's just kind of like a thing of as far as, like, additions go and stuff. But as far as recruiting and transfers, I haven't really heard anything about Tennessee. So I have no clue what they're doing as far as their roster goes. But...
They're too worried about being on Kentucky's social media pages and just talking shit. Like, I'm being so serious. Like, literally any social media post you go to, there is at least 1 or 2 Tennessee fans just saying whatever. And I can't stand it. They're worse than Louisville fans. They really are. As far as, like, talking about Kentucky. So I do think we beat them. I think we beat Murray State, but lose to Texas at Texas. I think that is just a tough place to play at. And I even told it to you. I was like, if we have this type of season, I genuinely think there's a serious chance that we get into the playoffs. But having that loss that late in the year hurts us so much more if it was earlier in the year. Just because, I mean, come the final 2 weeks of football, losses are the craziest. It means so much in the grand scheme of things at the end of the year towards the beginning. So that could be, if we had that season and we didn't make the playoffs, it would be because of a loss to Texas.
Real quick.
But
Sorry, no, you can finish with Texas. But before you talk about our game, I want to bring up something that.
No, that's basically. I just think Texas is gonna be a little too much at their place. But yeah, what were you about to say?
So as far as it goes with Louisville and Kentucky, in that game, as you know, the playoffs is a 12-team playoffs now. So we could realistically see a situation where Louisville and Kentucky are playing for a spot in the playoffs. We could realistically see that this year.
Yeah, it definitely could. Definitely.
And if that's the case, Kroger Field's going to be rocking. And I think it could potentially be exactly like what it was at L&N this year. And what I mean by that is you'll see a ton of Louisville fans, obviously a ton of Kentucky fans. But I think if that is the case, Kroger Field is going to be rocking. And it could potentially be the biggest crowd that it's had, and I don't know what the biggest crowd you guys have ever had was, but it could be a big crowd. I'll say that.
I was actually at the game, their largest crowd. It was I think in 21 when we beat Florida it was the second year in a row we beat Florida, but it was the first time we beat Florida at home. I think it's still the record. It could have changed since then, but I think it's still the record of the most people they've had there. I don't know. Obviously, I don't know what the number is, but I would be curious to see, because obviously in Louisville there's a lot of Kentucky fans in Louisville, but in Lexington there's not a lot of Louisville fans. It's obviously there's more Louisville fans in Louisville, yes, 100%. But there is that giant crowd of Kentucky people, and I was shocked to see how little of Kentucky fans were at the game this past year. I thought there was going to be way more. So I would be curious to see how much red would be in the crowds. If that was the circumstances, if it was a winner goes to the playoffs type of thing, is like, how dominantly blue would it be? You know what I mean? Like, I know Louisville travels good, Kentucky travels good, but something like that where it's like, okay, this is like crazy. This is the biggest game in the history of our rivalry.
And it could also be a situation where they're playing to knock the other out of the playoffs, which that is just another crazy topic to even bring up as well. Like that's insane too. And I think the 12-team playoff, honestly, it helps our rivalry a ton, because with the way both of our programs are going in the direction that they're going, we could see this type of situation for years to come if it does pan out that way, which I hope it does, because that would be awesome. But yeah.
With all that being said, we beat Louisville as well. We beat Louisville. I genuinely think that we, as of right now, again, this is way too early. So much stuff could change. You know, Bo Allen could be our starting quarterback for all I know. Devin Leary could be our starting quarterback for all I know. But I genuinely think that
there's also like there's no football of these new teams to watch, so we're literally just going off of like last year. Yeah. So, you know,
I think 10-2 is what I think is reasonable. A lot of people might disagree with me on that, but I genuinely think it's reasonable. Especially, I think our two losses are Georgia and Texas. We've proven that we can beat Florida at Florida. We've done it for 2 straight years now, I believe. And Tennessee, I think that might just be me speaking with my heart. I just really, want to beat Tennessee more than I want to beat Louisville, more than I want to beat Florida. That is the game that I have circled on my calendar. And even if, Josh, if you aren't even able to make it, I might be sitting in that crowd alone. That's a game I want to go to. I will go to that one. But, 10-2. I would say the floor, if I had to say a floor, would be 7-5 again, losing to Georgia, Ole Miss, Florida. Not Florida. I think we'll beat Florida. Georgia, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Texas, and Louisville would be the floor, in my opinion.
All right. Well, real quick before we end the pod here, Parker, the Raiders beat the Chargers 63-21.
You're lying. You're joking, right?
No.
Give me 1 second. Let me. That's crazy. Oh wow! Guess what? Austin Eckler didn't score. Oh wow! Guess what? Austin Eckler finished with 9 yards. Oh wait! Guess what? Austin Eckler finished with 5 carries. 5 carries. Holy crap, dude!
Who did he get out carried by the backup?
No. Yes, he did. The Isaiah Spiller had 16 carries.
Oh, Isaiah. That's their third string running back. So even Joshua Kelly.
Joshua Kelly also had 5 himself.
Jesus, man. That's... Whew. All right, well, it was a bit of a long one.
3 fantasy
It was a bit of a long one today, but we tried our best to mesh NFL and college into one. We appreciate you guys for listening, as always. I've been Josh. That has been Parker. And we appreciate you guys for watching and listening, or both, as always. So,
peace.
We will see you guys on Tuesday. See you guys.